Good evening. Welcome to the Marat Machpelah in Hebron, Eretz Israel. We're holding in Torah 79 of Likutei Moharan, and we've been learning this idea about Shabbat and the weekdays. And there's this idea of tshuva and tshuva shelema. And the Rebbe compares these two concepts for us, that tshuva shelema is when you've pushed away all evil, and you have naicha, you have rest, you have peace from the war with evil. In the weekdays, and that's like Shabbat, that peace that comes down from heaven for at least 25 hours. And the weekdays is like the tshuva that's not shlema. We have holy and we have unholy. We have pure and we have impure. We have the pasul and the permitted. So during the weekdays, we have these dichotomies of status of human endeavor. And that is like tshuva, but it's not shalema, because it hasn't pushed away the concepts of evil, which are involved with things like tuma and what's forbidden or what is permitted, etc. So that's the connection between Shabbat and tshuva. And then he goes on to tell us a very interesting thing. He tells us that Adam, when he was taken from the Garden of Eden, this is from the Zohar, Rabbi Nachman brings it, that the rabbis ask, well, where was he taken from? And the answer is from the four foundations. The four foundations, of course, are air, water, fire, and earth. So air, water, fire, and earth are found everywhere, in everything. If you just know how to look a little bit, you don't even need a microscope. But a human being is a combination of air. The air system is the lungs. The water system is the kidneys, the intestines. The foundation of earth is found in our bones and in our all the different minerals that we find in the human system. And of course, the fire system is the mind itself, the brain, because that's where all the electric activity is taking place to guide the human being around this planet. Now, those four foundations have powers that cause them to emanate into this world. And those four foundations, energies, are bound to the 10 sefirot, which are bound, of course, to the soul of every person. Now, the four foundations that make up Adam need to be in perfect balance. And when they get out of balance, that's where sickness begins. The Rebbe is going to explain to us that, if a person's angry, his fire system is overwhelming his cooling system, which is the air in the lungs and the water that's in the air in the lungs, and that helps cool the body. But if a person's angry, then his fire is out of balance with the rest. And if a person's earth foundation is too strong, he will tend towards depression and sadness, like earth, which is lowly, it's dense. It's slow to react. It's that down, if you will, the lowest of the elements. And so that is represented in the human being as depression and sadness. So if a person's earth foundation is dominant, has caused an imbalance, then that will show up in those emotions. And the water system, of course, is the idea of desire. Because desire is what makes everything move in this planet and in this universe. But what makes things grow is water. So water is connected to desire, because when you have water, things grow. And so in our water system, which is our kidneys, our intestines, etc., that region down here is, if it gets out of balance, then a person's desires are greater than the other foundations, and it causes him too much desire. And so the fourth in our order, whatever order you would choose, the air system, the lungs, is the balancing between the head, the fire, and the water. The stomach is the lungs. So the lungs are a balance between the two, and that's what you see, that the air system is taken in through the nose and the trachea, and then enters the lungs, and then it interacts with the the alveoli, I think they're called, those little cells that run around your lungs and pick up pieces of the blood, pick up pieces of oxygen, and away we go. So if the person talks too much, Rabbi Nachman says, and especially talks the wrong things, which we call lashon hara, well then his air system is out of balance. And these four foundations are found in everything. And they're found especially in the four holy cities of Eretz Yisrael. The fire city, of course, is Jerusalem, the head, the Rosh, right? And the water system is Tiberia, which is the Kinneret, and all the tributaries that feed into the Kinneret, and all those, and the Kinneret, of course, feeds the Jordan and other streams. So we have two other cities. We have the city of Tzfat, which is the city of air, and then we have the city of Hebron, which is the city of earth. And so these traits, they tend to have expression in us when we're in these cities. So you see, if you go to Jerusalem, you feel the fire. Everybody says it, you feel the fire of Jerusalem. And you go to Tzfat, and you're like, the beautiful air of Tzfat. And then you go to Tiberia, and you feel the Kinneret. You feel the moisture in the air. You're also on 200 or 300 meters below sea level. So there's a density of atmosphere there. And that's playing upon the water system. So we are little climates, we're little like climatology processors, and we're picking up the energy wherever we go. In the Eretz Yisrael, it's so demarcated so clearly by the Kabbalah that we are able to look at our bodies and look at our own weather. How's that? Check your weather, and you can check. Is it your air system, your water system, your fire system, or your earth system? Which one is causing a little trouble, and we're losing balance? And that's the root of all illness, that imbalance. And anybody who's studied little Chinese medicine has learned these concepts, and it's fascinating when you use them in your everyday life. You see the wisdom of the Torah is bound to everything. Okay, so when we want to achieve balance, well, what do we have to do is modulate the proper system. If we're too hot, we got to chill out, right? And if we're too cold, we got to warm up. And if we're too wet, we got to dry out. And if we're too windy, too many words pouring out of that mouth, then we got to learn to be quiet a little bit. But those four balances, when you are sensitive to them, then you can automatically modulate them with your breath, with your food, with your drink. And those simple elements in everyday life, which we're dealing with all the time, can actually help us achieve greater harmony with ourselves in the climate of our bodies. So this teaching is something that I'm sure many of you have heard. And if not, you can find it here in Likutei Moharan in the 79th Torah, but it appears elsewhere and with other explanations. Because when we look at these four elements and the four midot, the traits that they represent, that they are channeling of, it also, of course, comes back to other things like the Sfirot and the Malachim, the four Malachim that are part of the chariot of Hashem. And so the endless interconnections are part of what the Kabbalah teaches us. But for our purposes, just to get the basics down is an amazing thing. And you'll find yourself looking at life differently, and especially life in Eretz Yisrael. You know that when you go to a different place, there's going to be a different energy, a different vibe wherever you go. And we want to attune ourselves to that. Sometimes we want to get away from that too. Depends on where we're going and when we're going there. But this teaching has also brought in the concept of not stopping the Mashiach. Right? And he says our job is not to bring Mashiach, our job is not to stop Mashiach. Because Mashiach is coming no matter what. Because it's a 2,000 years process that we're living in. And so we can't really, the way he's telling us to influence and is a counterintuitive one, we say, don't stop Mashiach. And he will be coming. He'll be coming to each individual, and then it will come as a collective storm force of spiritual power that will be concentrated in Am Yisrael. So this idea of not stopping Mashiach, it sounds a little bit negative. I mean, I got to check myself to see if I'm stopping Mashiach. That's too much for me. That's too much guilt. That's too much on my shoulders. But when you understand how each of us carries a spark of that Mashiach, and then we understand that our job is just to keep the fire lit, and it's going to one day become an amazing thing to see. So God bless you all, and we'll look for you again here on YouTube, on Facebook, on Patreon, and all the outlets. Have a great week.